top 10 strongest Galar Pokemon, for real this time, starting off with Regidrago. It has 200 base hit points. You go max defense, you go max special defense, and it's actually tankier than Drifblim, which has previously been very high ranked in these top 10s because, yeah, having a tank Pokemon do whatever it wants turns out to be really good inside of Pokemon, but it also gives a lot of versatility, and then you have 100 special attack, which just kinda hurts, and 80 speed isn't terrible. So, yeah, it's top 10 because it kinda gets to do whatever it wants. Dragon's Maw, Dragon Energy is pretty good, and to just kinda show how ridiculous this Pokemon is, you can get away with this moveset, and it's actually really fun, where you go Light Screen, Reflect, Rest, and then you don't have to worry about anything. I have, like, Protect for the stalling if you want it, and it can just kind of keep setting up multiple times for your team instead of being a sacrifice Pokemon. It's also really good for absorbing some of the strongest moves from the opposing Pokemon, and the Protect was mostly there for Dynamax format, so we don't really know how that's going to go for Pokemon champions. But yeah, it's actually like, oh, they Dynamax, and you Protect. You still take a little bit of damage, but now they're losing their Dynamax to a Regidrago because it just doesn't get KO'd. And it also has Dragon Dance, so you can do this. Dragon Dance, Dragon Claw, Sleep Talk, Rest. If they don't have a Fairy-type Pokemon, what can they do about this? They actually can't do anything about this. It's Dragon Dance Crocoon. What can they do about it? Or you can go Chesto Resto and then you can put something else for the Sleep Talk. So it's a pretty wacky Pokemon, but it's also not free, which is why it's only number 10 on the list, especially when we talk about other crazy Pokemon like Urshifu. So Rapid Strike Urshifu, man. 130 attack, 97 speed. Hey, there's that speed creep again. Like, they didn't give it 100 or 103, but 97 catches everything below 100, and then you can scarf it to still go into a tier list that catches everything above 100 that isn't scarfed, or has a +1 somewhere, and then a 130 attack with 100 hit points, 100 defense, so you can't just KO it, not even with special attacks sometimes. And then its signature move is just way too stupid because there's no way to wall it since it's always a critical hit, and then 75 base power means, oh, it just has a stronger stab Earthquake, and the multi-hit means it gets to tear through a Focus Sash. So that, yeah, you just can't do anything about Rapid Strike Urshifu, and then it can run different move sets and different items. It becomes hard to predict. You guess wrong into it, you can't KO it, and now it just gets to swing momentum way too hard in its favor by just being powerful. Like, it's free power. Does not abide by the laws of thermodynamics. And then for number 8, we got Urshifu. And that's kind of how this list is going to go. You can swap number 8 and number 9 however you're feeling, because Single Strike Urshifu is the same thing, which is also kind of weird because you don't see too many people running Rapid Strike like Single Strike and vice versa, but also Wicked Blow got nerfed. So Urshifu, like, Single Strike was ridiculous. It loses 5 power, so now it kind of loses its identity over Rapid Strike Urshifu, and then Rapid Strike just became better in Gen 9. But it does have the advantage with Sucker Punch, so it just goes Swords Dance, Wicked Blow to Wall Break anything, and Dark is a pretty good typing to do that with. Sucker Punch, so it can actually revenge into a Pokemon that has Dragon Dance or Agility or some kind of Speed Boost sweeping, or if it's just a naturally crazy fast Pokemon, well, Urshifu can just tank because it's got those legendary stats, and then it's a Stab Sucker Punch from a 130 attack Pokemon. That shouldn't exist, and if it really wants to crush you, 120 power stab close combat. And comparing the forms, yeah, you can see how it's kind of weird the differences these Pokemon play. I don't know if there is an overlap, and that's meta development that just doesn't exist because everyone's cheating or they're bad players from Smogon. But it is kind of interesting to look at these Pokemon, just kind of see, yep, you go like Swords Dance, and then you crush everything below 97 speed, or you can just be like a Scarf sweeping threat that doesn't get KO'd like other sweepers and still has damage and overtuned signature gimmicks. Real cool game. Number 7, we got Spectrier, where this isn't real. This is a Mega Pokemon. How is a Mega Pokemon just normal in Generation 8 after they nerfed so much stuff in Generation 6 and Generation 7? Aegislash loses 10 to almost all of its stats, and then Game Freak goes, oh, wait a second, let's just make a 145 special attack, 130 speed Pokemon. Well, surely it can't have an ability, right? No, it's Beast Boost! That whenever it gets a KO, it boosts special attack. So if the opponent doesn't have anything that catches a 130 speed, and Spectrier picks up a KO, the game is just straight up over. You can't do anything about a +1 145 special attack sweeper that for some reason has 100 hit points. So 100 hit points, 80 special defense. Like, special attack's not going to KO it. You need a crazy physical hit to break through that. And then you're dealing with a 145 special attacker. Once again, it's just free. Oh man, I need a special sweeper on my team. Do I pick Greninja or do I pick freaking Spectrier? You just put Spectrier on your team if you need a 6th Pokemon, and you're going to win a lot more games. Just like that, for free. Next up, we have Regieleki. I just have it here because it's such a marvel of a Pokemon to have 200 speed. That just outspeeds +1s, and it gives you freedom to do things. And even though, like, the 100 special attack isn't crazy, it just has more. And what was Game Freak thinking in Generation 8? Where, oh, it just gets 50% more damage to electric-type moves for free. Now, it did get nerfed in Generation 9, and this goes into deeper, competitive discussion about Game Freak's balance that doesn't make sense, that needs its own video that no one cares about watching, where, yeah, Dynamax actually messed a lot of things up for balance in ways that we can't even imagine, especially with the reduced national dex. Now, I don't think any of those things are bad, because Generation 8's meta was fun. Dynamax, objectively better than Mega Evolution because any Pokemon can get access to this power, more powerful than Z moves, and Terastallization just adds so much ugly unpredictability into the game. So it was really consistent power, but then to balance some of the Pokemon, yeah, actually Regieleki has to have that 1.5x to be viable when a Pokemon can just double its health. And then when you remove that, okay, you bring it down to a free Life Orb on 100 special attack, and then it can just throw specs on that. So, actually, modest specs, Thunderbolt, with that free 30%, and now it's a 200 speed Pokemon that can one-shot things. The only thing holding this Pokemon down is terrible electric coverage, which is kind of fixed by Terastallization, which is confirmed for Pokemon Champions. Bolt Beam has always been highly regarded for offensive coverage, so you just go Terra Ice Regieleki, and that's actually really scary. Now, this top 10 series doesn't take a lot of consideration into Terra, but since it is confirmed, yeah, we're going to see how that plays out. We also don't know if Dynamax is in the game. I've talked about this several times where, okay, if Dynamax is in, 90% of battles are going to be Dynamax, then 8% of that is going to be Megas, and then, like, the rest of it's just going to be Terra Volcarona, except maybe for, like, 0.3% Terra Regieleki. It's like, because it is one of the most viable options with all gimmicks available, it gets some consideration for the list, even though we're not really counting Megas. There's no acknowledgement for restricted legendaries at all because they're lame, and this is single battles. So them's the rules. However, Regieleki is just so silly and really encapsulates Game Freak's brain-broken design for Generation 8, where they go, we're going to give these Pokemon the sharpest things imaginable. They have accessible counters, but if the counter doesn't exist, this Pokemon wins the game. That's just how it is. Number 5, we have Corviknight. A Pokemon that is tankier than Skarmory. We have New Age, power-crept Skarmory in the game. What's it going to do? Actually ruin your life. Body Press, Iron Defense. And, like, Body Press being introduced in Generation 8 redefined how, like, tank battling worked, and then created the crazy hyper anti-stall meta we see where everyone's running taunt, everyone's got an encore. If you don't bring Trick's Scarf or something, you just lose the game to an Iron Defense tank. Them's the rules. So Corviknight, one of the pinnacle Pokemon of that. Also, it reflects stat reduction, so you can't counter it that way, even though it's not common. If it's something that happens, oh, yeah, Corviknight just doesn't care about that. It's going to get its Iron Defenses. It's going to Body Press. A Ghost-type Pokemon? Hey, cool, it has Power Trip. So it just gets to use those stats, and it roosts. So it's better Skarmory. Now, it doesn't have the Stealth Rock setup, but Stealth Rocks is bad and fraudulent, so don't use it. Please, stop listening to the garbage players over at Smogon with their fake baby format that isn't even remotely real Pokemon because they ban everything that beats them. Also, being a Flying-type Pokemon, Corviknight locks out Counterplay because you can't Fissure it. And it has few weaknesses, but it's so tanky, it can just kind of deal with them. I can't believe a Pokemon that's better than Skarmory was just allowed to exist by Game Freak. They deliberately designed this, and they thought it was okay. And then number 4 shows why I had to do the previous video, because there's a top 10 set of good Pokemon in Galar that are viable, that are usable, that need consideration for their power. And then Bloodmoon Ursaluna exists in a completely different tier, in a completely different universe of power that Game Freak just decided to make, technically for Generation 9, But also, there's so much crazy power in Generation 9, I kind of have to cheat and put Bloodmoon Ursaluna in Generation 8. And Bloodmoon Ursaluna is the epitome of modern competitive Game Freak design, where a Pokemon gets something that exists, but better, just cuz, and then some unbelievably power-crept new thing or signature move. So we have Bloodmoon, a signature boss move on a Pokemon. What's it going to get? Is it like a better Earthquake? So like 100, 110 power? I mean, Power Ball has 120. 140 power on a normal type move. Okay, at least a Ghost type Pokemon can do something about it. No, because it gets scrappy. Ghost types can be hit with normal and fighting type moves, but that's not all, because it's also Keen Eye on top of Scrappy for no reason, because God forbid something is so terrified of this Pokemon. It is so desperate to not lose and die to this overpowered, overtuned beast that it actually goes, Pocket Sand! And that's actually not allowed to be used against Bloodmoon Ursaluna either. Oh, but it has a drawback? No, it doesn't, because this thing's stats are so crazy, the Earth power is just as scary. Actually, you know what? After that rant, I'm putting it at number 3, and I'm moving number 3, which is Appletun, to number 2, because Appletun is still one of the most ridiculous setup tanks to ever exist inside of the game. Now, you look at it, 110, 80, 80. I mean, we've already been, like, gawking over Pokemon like Suicune, or just astonished whenever some kind of crazy defensive setup ends up on a Pokemon. But Ripen giving double berry effectiveness means Key Berry is now doubled, Moringa Berry is now doubled. Now, in reality, you just run a Moringa Berry, that way you double your special defense. After eating a special attack, you go Iron Defense, and now the opponent is unable to play the game because you have Recover. And then you can choose what you want to do. Apple Acid just erodes the opponent's special defense, so eventually they get KO'd by that. You have Leech Seed for the sustain, on top of that Recover, so even if they do have like some initial crazy power, well, that's going to get negated really quickly, where Moringa Berry activates, you get double special defense, Leech Seed heals you up, they hit you, don't KO you, Recover, and now they lose the game. You get 2-3 Iron Defenses into a Body Press, and this Pokemon just swept you entirely. It is one of the most dangerous, crazy, tanky, unmovable Pokemon in the game, except against Ice types. But as we can see, there's always a lot of sharp weaknesses to Pokemon. But this Pokemon is more consistent and more powerful at winning games than Hippowdon, which means an incredible amount. It is just one of the best Pokemon ever, but we're talking about Generation 8, so we got number 2 with Duraludon, which is so powerful. I'm going to break the rules of the list and say, actually, we're acknowledging Dynamax, because its Dynamax is so game-shattering. Actually, the best Pokemon in Pokemon Sword and Shield, so that's carrying over into this list, unless Pokemon Champions has no Dynamax whatsoever, in which case, it's still viable. It's probably like number 1 on the top 10 good list, because now it has Eviolite. But if it has Eviolite Dynamax, and then the most powerful max moves in the game, because that's the gimmick, oh, this is going to be a big boy. Oh, this is going to be a fun game. Because that's what I discovered at the time. You just go Life Orb with Draco Meteor Steel Beam, Thunder Solar Beam, and then you just one-shot everything. And then you still trade with the opponent's Dynamax Pokemon very favorably. And then when you leave Dynamax, the opponent is going to be so weak, you just pick whatever move you want for the win. Draco Meteor, doesn't matter if you're -2 because you're seeing the victory screen. And then Steel Beam can actually be beneficial because it's like an explosion. You're taking yourself out, but the opponent's gone too, and now you're getting a reset, but it also doesn't matter because you're seeing the victory screen. Thunder, Solar Beam, they're just kind of there as like weird options that you need. But if you get Max Overgrowth, well, now you're kind of healing while you have that setup going, and the Solar Beam or the follow-up Max Overgrowth is crazy. Same thing on the Thunder with the Electric Terrain, which you can use to not fall asleep. So a lot of weird interactions this Pokemon just unlocks while having incredibly high damage. Now, another huge consideration is this Pokemon massively exploited 3v3 Battle Stadium singles. That's also the official singles competitive format, so it has a lot of weight. Still really good in 6v6, where like, okay, the opponent uses their Dynamax, you try to nullify it with a tank, or you lose something. But then Duraludon gets 3 Pokemon against a team that doesn't have any Dynamax, and then it either does like 80% with that Draco Meteor, or it finishes off a tanky Pokemon that survived one of its max moves. It just gets way too much momentum and way too much power. Game shattering. And then we go straight to number 1. No honorable mentions, because that was effectively the entirety of the last video compared to this level of power, with Basculegion. And here's where things get weird, because, yeah, Pokemon Legends Arceus, Generation 8 game, but had no competitiveness whatsoever, and Basculegion only existing competitively in Generation 9 by getting one of the most insane moves in the game with Last Respects. It is the third highest attack out of all adaptability Pokemon, and that includes a Mega. So this thing is just going to hurt no matter what it does. But then you have Scarf on 78 speed, which is respectable. 120 hit points means it's surviving with that 65 defense, 75 special defense. So even if you can tank a move or outspeed it somehow, it's not going to care, and then it's going to one-shot you with an adaptability stab Last Respects, and that's going to run over the rest of your team. It is the best cleanup Pokemon in the game. Much like Spectrier, if you're uncontested on speed, you just win the game. And the Scarf makes it faster than Spectrier. So it is one of those things like, oh man, I need some kind of cleanup sweeper. I just need a bit more offensive presence on my team. Who do I pick? The answer is Basculegion. And the crazy thing is, Last Respects isn't your only option because Wave Crash can still close out games for you or be a reliable pick. So your only goal with Basculegion is removing all of the normal type Pokemon from the opposing team, and then you win the game because that's modern Game Freak razor sharp design. And that's just the power of this Pokemon, adding it to a team, brain off. That if you want to play the Revival, Blessing, Last Respects like crazy combo, biggest brain, highest skill cap team in Pokemon, but when played flawlessly, actually has a 99% chance to win, which is the highest possible in Pokemon, is better than any possible strategy that can ever be imagined. But it is like a galaxy brain thing, and it takes like team setup and like perfect lines of play and stuff. But it just kind of shows like what you can do with Basculegion is ridiculous. And it is just the best. Slap it on team or build a team around it. You win. There we go, best Generation 8 Pokemon. But now we just win, because we're a Ghost type. He can't extreme speed us with Scarf, so we're just better. I don't care how tanky he is, he's not surviving a Wave Crash. Easy. Like all kinds of numbers interacting here. So Citrus Berry, weird anti-setup, Dragon Tail. Dang, did not clap hard enough. Oh, he does not survive that. I was like, oh, what's his curse going to do? Actually, nothing. Alright. And then that means we're just going to need like Cresselia to +0 Moonblast after this Last Respects. Is Basculegion transparent? Interesting. He's like cursing and bulking up, and it's not getting it far enough, but that was a not crazy amount of damage. Leftovers? Ooh. Oh wait, that's full like hit points defense then. Like, that almost felt like a resisted hit with how little it did. Alright. Well, he got another bulk up in there. Is he gonna try to, like, +2 Sucker Punch one-shot me? And like I said, we just need to get to the point where all Cresselia has to do is live a hit and then get his one. Transparency could be because of terrestrialization. Oh, Shadows. Ah, he's full tank. So we still got it. Yeah, but I mean, that looks like a different kind of, like, transparency with the Terrastal on the Basculegion Ghost. I don't remember seeing through a Pokemon like that.